Hi, Russ Dimmitt. I'm coming to you from the Plainfield Technology Center, and I'm standing on top of the prior structure here where we have a chimney, and I want to talk a little bit about chimney caps. There's several reasons you might want a chimney cap. The first one is moisture. If you don't have a chimney cap, you're going to have rain and snow, things like that coming down the chimney, which are going to cause problems in multiple ways. Number one, moisture. You can get freeze-thaw damage. The moisture can also wash out the mortar joints. Even though the codes and standards say that there should be non-water soluble refractory between those tiles for the joints, often that's not the case. They've used the same mortar that they've used to build the chimney. So those joints can wash out. The other thing that happens is all the products of combustion have corrosive elements within them. So what happens is if you have water going down there, it's going to mix with the products of combustion that are in the flue and cause an acidic reaction, corrosion to the flue tiles, the mortar joints, things like that. So we want to keep the water out of those flues. Second reason we'll want a chimney cap on there is to keep animals and birds out. Typically with chimneys we think about cavity nesting species such as raccoons, squirrels. Chimney swifts are always a huge thing in chimneys. The reality is, to those type of critters, this is just another hollow tree, and they'll use it for nesting, particularly if there's any deterioration in the mortar joints, the brickwork's exposed, whatever the case may be. It's just like climbing in and out of a tree for them, not an issue at all. You'll also find wood ducks in there. They're cavity nesting species. And in a lot of cases, you just have accidental visitors, birds that you look at and go, why on earth is this thing in this chimney? So you just want to have a chimney cap on there for that reason. So another reason to have a chimney cap is to keep debris out of there. A lot of chimneys are in locations where leaves, branches, things like that can go down the flue. That presents problems in a couple different ways. One, the potential exists for a blockage. So you could have carbon monoxide and smoke spillage in the home because the flue's actually blocked. The other issue with debris is, for the most part, it's combustible. So it could catch fire, start a chimney fire if you have creosote in there, cause a lot of damage to your chimney. The fourth reason you might want a chimney cap is to control embers. Depending on where you're at in the country and what type of roof you have, that may be a bigger deal for you than in other areas, in other situations. But by having a chimney cap on there, you're going to catch those embers and not have them flying out, landing on your roof, landing in the leaf pile in the yard, whatever the case may be. Now, there's three different types of chimney caps I want to talk about. We can go into a lot more detail on those, and we'll do those at another time. Okay, so one thing I want to point out here is I'm on the prior structure here, and we use this in training as far as inspections, things like that, to what to look for when you're in the home. So you can see we've got a wash here that's all busted up. We've got a plywood crown here. Unfortunately, these are all things that you'll find out in a home, so you want to be alert for those. The condition of the crown is obviously important because moisture is the biggest enemy of masonry. So an improper wash up here could allow moisture to enter the rest of the chimney. That's a situation that unfortunately is all too common. The codes and standards do allow what we would call a wash that just comes to the edge of the brickwork. We all know in the industry that a full crown or a cover is better, but it is what it is. We got to deal with it. They should also be made out of concrete. This one's made out of mortar, which is also far too common. So let's talk about chimney caps a minute. One style of cap we want to talk about is a single flue. Now a single flue cap would cover just one of these. That would keep the moisture out, keep the animals out, leaves, debris, contain the embers. But this is a great example. We've got two flues next to each other. Now, there's no width between these. There should be 4 inches of brick between them. Not the case here, and unfortunately not the case in a lot of the homes you're in. Putting two single flue caps on here would be quite challenging because they'd hit each other, bump each other, things like that. So another option in this would be a top mount cap. Now the top mount cap would actually mount to the wash or the crown. Now obviously this one would be a poor candidate since I can lift up pieces of it. We'd want to redo that before we did that. But that actually mounts to the wash or crown. Great idea, but the situation you run into it's going to be much more aesthetically pleasing than two single flues up here in most cases. But depending on the size of your lid, that may not protect the crown. We want to protect the crown. So that's one option. The other option, and one that's becoming increasingly popular, is an outside mount cap, where you actually go outside of the brickwork or the crown and cover the whole thing. Not only you perform the 4 functions we want to perform with the chimney cap, but also we protect this crown from the weather and the moisture, which is something we want to do. So those are just some options. There are a lot of options as far as chimney cap materials. Galvanized, copper, and stainless are the most common. Each has their strong points and benefits. Just want to hit on a couple of those. Galvanized caps over time have a tendency to rust and start putting rust stains down the side of the chimney. Now there are areas of the country where they work just fine, where there's a drier climate. Stainless is a great option. It is the most common option that goes on out there. And then copper is a really nice option, particularly on an upper end home. People really like the looks of it. One thing to be aware of with copper is as it patinas or turns, you can get staining down a light colored chimney, like a white or a light colored brick. You want to be cautious of that. So until next time.